Guys, welcome to Beyond the Muscle. I'm really pleased to welcome my next guest to the show, Dan Sutcliffe. So, Dan is a natural bodybuilder, he's a coach, and he's had quite the season in 2024. It will take me a while to go through his list of accomplishments, but we'll give it a go. So, Dan started off the season at the BNBF Southern, where we met, and he won the middleweight title, best wheels, and the overall with a great showing. He also won the Heart of UK DFBA Heart of England a few weeks later. And in the short class, was that, is it short and tall, that one?
Yeah, short
Yeah.
class. Yeah,
And then back to the BNBF. So Dan took the first place in the BNBF British finals, becoming British champion and taking best wheels again. And then he finished second in the UK DFBA international finals in a really close battle. And I believe that went down to a split decision, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe.
And yeah, then to cap off an amazing season, Dan finished second. Sorry, he finished first. That's my mistake at the DFAC Worlds to cap off an amazing year. So yeah, how was the season from for you, Dan, from your perspective?
Yeah, incredible. Couldn't really have gone any better. I sort of at the start of the season, you have kind of a list of goals that you sort of want to sort of tick off, and every single one I sort of managed to tick off. So
Mm,
yeah, it was an absolutely amazing season. Really enjoyed it from start to finish, to be honest. And yeah, certainly my most successful, but also most enjoyable one yet. So
great, great.
yeah, yeah, it was just a really sort of memorable season, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah. No, you absolutely smashed it because you last competed. Was it 2021? Was that right?
It's 2021, so 2018 was my sort of first competitive season. Took a
Mhm.
couple of years off, then did 2021, took another couple of years off, and then obviously last year. So
So your third competitive season.
third competitive season. And yeah, I've sort of tended to favour like a 2 year off season.
Mm,
It seemed to sort of work well the first time, seemed to sort of work well last time as well. And yeah, I love competing. I love prep, but I also really enjoy the off season, and feel like the sort of 2 years in between actually sort of helped me kind of level up my physique, and was sort of really beneficial.
yeah, that makes a lot of sense because I know a lot of athletes kind of just leave 1 year in between. And
Mm.
yeah, obviously, if you double that, you're going to yield some better results. Out of curiosity, how do you feel your physique has changed since 2021?
I feel like I've uh, grown in terms of muscle like maturity and sort of density.
Hmm.
I think initially when I first sort of started competing, I had quite a sort of immature, not the right word, quite a young looking sort of physique,
Right, right.
not sort of fully developed in terms of sort of that sort of grainy, sort of hard, dense muscle.
Hmm.
And I feel like that's only sort of improved with each season that I've done. Uh,
Yeah.
Conditions improved season on season. Yeah, I think that that sort of comes with experience as well.
Hmm.
Um, and probably just a little bit more overall balance to my physique. I think
Yeah.
initially when my first season, I was very sort of bottom heavy.
Right, right.
Sort of legs were never an issue, but upper body, my feedback was always, you need to bring up your upper body, you need to bring up your
Right.
arm, you need to have, you know, wider lats, bigger delts, and yeah, that was always a bit of an issue, and I think I've sort of addressed those kind of imbalances somewhat.
Yeah, yeah. No, that makes sense. Well, you've definitely, I'd say you've got a lot of balance to your physique now for sure. To have seen some pictures of your 22 on physique, and there's definitely been, yeah, yeah, a good, yeah. There's a, like I said, a lot more balance there, which
Thank
is
you.
which is good to see. And yeah, you have a lot of like, muscle density as well. How many years have you been training, Dan? Out of curiosity.
Uh, 15 years, I'd say.
Oh, okay.
I'd say I started, yeah, training properly when I was about 19. I'm 34 this month.
Hmm.
So yeah, I've always sort of trained like a bodybuilder, um, and didn't start competing until I was 28. So
Yeah.
um, I'd say sort of 9 years of sort of good training before I actually
Mm.
sort of decided to step on stage.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's interesting. Yeah, it's funny. I was speaking to obviously your coach Darren
Yeah,
on the last episode, and he's the same. He actually waited a long time, as did I, before stepping on stage. And
yeah.
yeah, like you said, he was a bodybuilder before a bodybuilder. I think yeah, it must be the same for you.
Before you actually realize you're a bodybuilder, you're
Yeah,
actually sort of being told you're a bodybuilder, and you're sort of being told you should compete, and you should try that bodybuilding lark, and you should get on stage. It's oh no, I'm not. That's not me.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, in reality, you've been training like a bodybuilder for years.
Mm. Did you have any aspirations to complete like much sooner on, or not really?
No, not really. Like I say, it was something that sort of a lot of my friends said that I should do and that I'd be good at. I sort of got into training when I was at university, and I'd have sort of quite a few comments from just sort of random gym goers and random members, and they would sort of say, "Oh, you've got a great physique. You should step on stage. You should try bodybuilding." And I was like, "Nah, not for me, not for me."
Right, right.
Um, and then yeah, I sort of only it was only sort of like I say 2018 when a couple of my sort of close friends who were also sort of PTs said to me, you should really take this bodybuilding thing more seriously, and
Mm.
you know try your hand at a bodybuilding competition.
Mm.
Oh, let's go for it, see what happens. And I literally gave myself 12 weeks. I hadn't really done an off season. I was sort of spinning my wheels. I was sort of training, but not with much intent or with
Yeah,
much purpose, just more so for enjoyment and sort of like general kind of like maintenance. Literally gave myself a 12-week prep before
right.
the BNBF Southern in 2018
Yeah,
on stage, nowhere near conditioned enough, like absolutely nowhere near. Entered a novice qualifier, and came fifth in what was absolutely stacked novice lineup.
yeah.
And yeah, I got the bug then. That was it. I loved it, absolutely loved it. So
Yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, well, you've definitely come a long way since then. That's for sure. Yeah, that was
yeah,
my first show as well, the BNBF Southern as well.
yeah, great
Yeah,
show. Absolutely, yeah, obviously.
yeah. Was it still Leatherhead then, or was it somewhere else?
Yeah, Leatherhead. Yeah, so yeah, Leatherhead was my first ever show, and then obviously it was the Leatherhead last year, wasn't it, for the
Yeah,
BNBF as well? So yeah, great memories.
yeah, yeah. No, for sure. Same for me
Love,
up there.
love that
It's a good
venue.
venue. Mm, yeah, it's
Yeah,
a good one.
great.
Yeah. Obviously, I want to talk about you actually coached some clients as well this year. How was it from your perspective? Like actually being an athlete and a coach at the same time, did it actually have come with some added pressure, or did it kind of alleviate things in a way?
I thought it was going to add a lot more pressure, but what it actually did, I think, was inspire me a lot more.
Okay.
And also sort of coaching people who, you're very sort of like sort of empathetic towards them, because you know exactly how they feel at
Mm,
any given moment, and so you sort of sharing the experience with them, and I sort of really enjoyed that aspect of it. It's the first time I've done it. It's the first time I've prepped clients to the stage whilst also prepping myself.
right.
And yes, it added another layer of pressure, especially on show days, because you're sort of looking after those clients and also sort of thinking about yourself as well. But no, I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed having that extra sort of responsibility, and it also acted as a bit of a distraction as well, so that I wasn't
Mm,
piling so much pressure on myself, which
mm,
I tend to do, and I sort of tend to get in my own head, and I tend to overthink everything. And on show day, it was a much more sort of enjoyable experience because I had that sort of distraction as well.
yeah. Oh, that's
Um,
interesting. Yeah, I did wonder if it did come with some positives as well, like that, and in terms of alleviating pressure. Yeah, that's interesting. Mm,
I think if obviously I listened to your last episode with Darren, and I mean he's obviously very experienced prep coach now. He's been doing it for years, but he's had shows where he's had sort of like 8 clients competing in the same show as himself, and I think that would be different. I think
yeah,
it
yeah.
would be a hell of a lot of pressure. And I think again that would sort of you know, you learn to deal with that with experience, don't you? But I had three clients competing last year.
Mm,
All of them were sort of competing in similar sort of shows to what I was, and it was just great to sort of share that experience with them and share the day with them, and
mm,
even the night before, sort of staying in the same hotel and sort of checking in with them face to
yeah.
face, that kind of stuff. It was just yeah, it was nice to do it with them.
Mm. Yeah, that's great. And like Becky as well, she had an incredible season, didn't she,
Yeah,
in her first year? It was unreal.
yeah, insane. She's
Yeah.
she's I've been sort of training her for years. She's a PT client, and I've sort of been sort of training her for years. And sort of similar to myself, she just sort of decided one day that she wanted to compete, and she's destined. She's been destined to do it for years, and
Mm.
she won't mind me saying, but she's not getting younger. She's sort of late 30s, and it's her first. Last season was her first show, and she
Yeah.
absolutely cleaned up.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Yeah, she's got one of those physiques you look at and you think, how is this your first season? As you look like
I,
you've been doing this for, yeah, like so much muscle density and maturity. Incredible.
but again, been training for sort of 20 years.
Yeah, yeah.
Has always trained, not always trained, with bodybuilding in mind or like a bodybuilder, but very athletic, and she's
Mm,
sporty, and sort of has always done sort of competitive sport and gymnastics
mm.
and dancing and stuff like that. So yeah, amazing athlete.
Yeah, it really is.
Amazing
Yeah, yeah.
physique.
Yeah, and that's great. Yeah, back to like your own like coaching, well, your own like prep journey rather. Obviously, you were coached by Darren this year. So yeah, last year was like the first year I kind of did my own, or didn't go down the self-coaching route.
Mhm.
And yeah, from my perspective, it definitely made a big difference. Just having someone there, like in my corner, I can
Mhm.
kind of really relax and just yeah enjoy it. I enjoyed prep a lot more. Um, so how was it from your perspective going through like a coached, like a prep, being coached by someone, and then just doing it yourself? What were the differences like for you?
I've never done it myself. Well, no, I haven't done it myself.
Oh, sorry, right. Yeah, you didn't do it yourself.
Yeah, so no, so first season I had a coach, not Darren, but a different coach,
Mm,
and so 2021 I was coached by Darren,
yeah.
20 and last year I was coached by Darren, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Mm,
I'm sure I could coach myself, but I just feel like the level of accountability and also taking the pressure off myself and not doing the thinking and just
mm,
and giving someone the reins and sort of saying you do all that for me.
mm,
I'm I would do exactly as you say,
yeah, yeah.
and that's that's the way that's always the way for me that I like to work, in that I'm sort of very sort of robotic, and
Yeah.
uh, you know, as long as you've got trust in that coach and you've got trust in that person, that which you should do, obviously, if
Yeah.
you're going through a competitive, bodybuilding prep with them, that just having that level of that accountability where you can just sort of follow the instructions, and to me that just takes the pressure off.
Mm,
And I don't even have to worry about it, or I don't have to think about it. It just completely takes the stress away from me.
yeah. Now that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I've done it myself. I wouldn't recommend going down the self-coach route personally. I did it for my first season, and yeah, your mind definitely plays tricks on you, and you can just be very reactive to like little changes in, skull fluctuations, things like that. And yes, it's a bad idea because you don't have that objective eye, that second eye. And
Yeah, for
yeah, I
sure.
don't think I'd do it again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you get in your own head, don't you? And you sort of question, yeah, you question your own sort of decision making, you question your own thoughts. The way we're sort of wired as competitive athletes as well is that we always want to do more, and
Mm,
sometimes that's not the right thing. And
yeah. Yeah.
sometimes, a lot of the time, Darren was sort of saying to me, do less.
Mm,
You need to do less. You need to do, stop working so hard. Stop trying to do more. Stop, it, relax. Stop stressing,
yeah.
and just having that. that sort of experienced second eye, I suppose, that assurance that you're doing enough, you don't need to do any more,
Yeah.
is absolutely it's worth its weight in gold in
Yeah,
my
no, it's so true because it seems so counterproductive, doesn't it, to take your foot off the gas.
yeah.
You
Yeah,
just want
and
to,
sometimes more is not more, and yeah, and it's kind of I suppose that's one of my sort of biggest lessons from last year is that you don't have to suffer
mm,
24/7. You don't have to be doing, you know, hours of cardio and thousands of steps and
mm,
extra sessions and eating less food, and it doesn't always have to be like that. And
mm.
I think if I was coaching myself, it would be like self-sabotage.
Yeah, yeah,
I'd be just pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing.
mm, yeah. I've made a mistake, and yeah, it leads to really bad things. I can tell you that it's
Yeah,
not good.
dig yourself in the
How?
hole, don't you?
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely. How was your like transition into the off season, Dan?
This time round,
Mm,
pretty good. I've learned from previous mistakes. My first competitive season, I really did not know what I was letting myself in for.
mm,
Uh, to be fair, we were in Miami, and that was after the Worlds, and obviously, you know what it's like in America with food and
mm,
temptation and that kind of stuff. And I ended up binging, and um, it was absolutely crazy the amount of food consumed over like a 5-day period post Worlds in
yeah,
2018, and then that sort of continues again. Then when you get home and it sort of becomes a little bit uncontrollable, and food focus is through the roof, and
mm,
it was pretty bad the first time round.
hmm.
Second time round in 2021, I was probably too conservative coming out of it.
Okay,
And I think probably because of the 2018 season when I sort of went overboard post-season, I was too cautious and too conservative, and I don't think I sort of increased my calories sort of fast enough in 2021.
right,
And so my recovery was slower. I think
yeah,
I was way too concerned about sort of like gaining weight too quickly and gaining body fat too quickly.
mm,
So this time I feel like it's been a pretty good sort of transition, a pretty good
okay,
transition. We had a plan, sort of Darren and I, to sort of increase calories pretty quickly after the Worlds, and I've obviously, enjoyed some off-plan meals. We've been to Sri Lanka, and we had a sort of 2-week holiday where
mm,
obviously that was, we yeah enjoyed some sort of like lovely lovely food that you
mm,
as you do when you're on holiday, and then
yeah,
obviously, Christmas and New Year, as you know, can be a bit of a sort of a challenging time, sort of post competition season when your
yeah,
sort of food focus is higher and all that kind of stuff. But no, it's been good
mm,
apart from a couple of illnesses that I've picked up, but
yeah.
there's loads of stuff going around, isn't there? But
Yeah, yeah. No,
um,
that's good to hear. Yeah, it sounds like you've transitioned out of the prep phase into the off season nicely, which I know that can be real tough for people. But yeah.
yeah, it's definitely it's a bit of a mental battle, isn't it? I think
Mm,
the more times you do it, the sort of the better you become at it.
yeah, I think it really is the
Like
case with that.
like
Yeah.
anything, it's experience, isn't it?
Mm, yeah.
Um,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'd like to get an insight into kind of your mindset and head state whilst in prep. See, you definitely strike me as someone who's like very level-headed during prep, like laser focused, and you just kind of get the job done. So I'm curious to know, so what's going through your mind in those like deep stages of prep, like just before a final? Do you do any like kind of visualization techniques for being on stage? What's it like inside your head during those stages?
uh, so you said there about being level-headed. I think anyone who's close to me um, sort of might disagree with you.
Really, right.
Yeah. I tend to I'm a big overthinker, and I get in my own head,
Mm,
and I um that there was a couple of shows last year where I sort of looked at the lineups as you do, and you sort of
mm,
see, there's some absolutely stacked classes last year, and the standard across the board was absolutely amazing, as you know.
yeah.
and you sort of see these names, and a lot of these competitors, and you think, oh, I've got no chance. I've got
Right.
absolutely no chance. So there was definitely some self-doubt, and that's despite, having, you know, won shows
Mm,
and had some success. I do tend to get in my own head a little bit,
mm,
and okay, I'm laser focused, and I'm very sort of like, when I'm, in the lead up to show day, and I tend to just sort of follow the plan. I don't let anything I don't let anything sort of derail me in that respect.
yeah.
But the mental battle for me has always been like my biggest kind of obstacle.
Mm,
Yeah, I guess it's just a bit of self-doubt, and
yeah.
maybe that's prep brain sort of just,
Yeah.
playing games, play sort of mind games. But again, this is where I think having a coach and having a great support sort of network and a
Mm,
great support system is, again, worth its weight in gold. And I think absolutely imperative in
yeah.
in a bodybuilding sort of prep, to be
Yeah.
honest.
No, that's so true. Yeah, that's interesting about the self-doubt because yeah, I mean when you get when let's say you get a really good result and you've had many this year, you win a regional title, a British title, how much does it quieten those self-doubt voices for you?
Yes, yeah, it certainly did last year. I mean,
Yeah.
first, the first show last year couldn't have gone any better.
Mm,
And I think, and because like it was such an enjoyable day as well, and you know, having all my sort of friends and family there to come and support me and all that kind of stuff, and just having that kind of like, that sort of validation that, actually,
mm,
I did do well, and I can be proud of myself, and you sort of, yeah, you sort of gain confidence from that first show,
mm.
definitely.
Yeah.
The only problem is then it then adds, or for me anyway, I then put more pressure on myself, because
Right.
I'm then sort of thinking, well, anything less than first place next time is
Mm,
a failure.
yeah.
In reality, that's not the case.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the way my mind works in
Mm,
that moment. You're sort of thinking, okay, right, now the next one's coming up in 2 or 3 weeks' time. I need
mm,
to win that one as well.
yeah.
Otherwise, I've failed. Otherwise, I haven't done as well as the previous time. So,
Mm,
yeah, there is that kind of, I do sort of put probably unnecessary pressure on myself.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
That's interesting. And it yeah, I suppose once you've reached a certain level, yeah, it makes sense. Anything less than that is just, in your head at least, just not acceptable. I
Yeah,
totally get that.
yeah. Which I
Mm,
suppose is the competitive nature of me, which is,
mm,
it has its pros and cons, doesn't it? But
yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, yeah. You definitely had an incredible season. So, and yeah, you had a very loud. I remember the first show. You had a very loud group of supporters as well. Um,
it's absolutely insane.
yeah, it was brilliant. Yeah, yeah. Because I had a really loud group as well. I had maybe 12, 13 people come to see me on that first show, and yeah, we were maybe rivaling yours, but we weren't quite at your group's level, but we were close.
No, it's incredible, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
amazing. It makes all the difference on show day, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, it does.
Hearing those hearing those voices when you're sort of on stage, and you can, yeah, it just makes the days just so much more
Yeah.
enjoyable.
And
You
it
know,
really does make a difference. Having that support, I
Um,
don't think the audience realizes like how much of a difference it really makes, I think.
yeah, it's insane.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, I'd like to delve into your training history a little bit, Dan. So,
Mhm.
yeah, going back to like where it all began. So I'm quite curious to hear this. So, yeah, from my own perspective, I remember when I first started training, like way back in like 2001, long, long time ago. I
Mhm.
was definitely like a maybe not a hyper responder, but I responded very well to weight training. And I yeah transformed my physique after a few months of lifting. Like being that you carry a lot of muscle tissue, I'd love to know like did gains come really quickly for you when you first started, or was it more of a slow process?
Initially, yes, they came very, very quickly, to the extent where when I first started training, I just finished my first year at uni, and I basically went home, and I had 3 or 4 months basically of dead time essentially, and I was bored, so I went to the gym. And yeah, okay, I trained pretty much non-stop for 3 months in between sort of university years. But when I went back for for my
Mm.
second year, people were just absolutely gobsmacked by
Mm.
how my physique had changed in like 3 months. I was getting sort of accused of being on steroids and
Yeah, yeah.
all sorts. It was crazy, and I actually gained in that time uh, about a stone and a half in about 3 months. Uh,
Wow.
and it wasn't, I wasn't like fat. I hadn't gained significant amount of body fat. I was eating well and I was eating in a surplus and I was eating enough protein and all that kind of thing. But that was pretty much 3 months of like sort of solid training, and
Mm.
my physique sort of blew up in
Yeah.
that space of time. So yeah, I would say I'm a sort of a hyper responder. I'd say I've always been sort of athletic, and I've always sort of played sports, football, rugby, that kind of thing. But when I was actually sort of committed to building muscle in those early stages when I was sort of 19 years old, yeah, it sort of happened very quickly for me.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I had a feeling that'd be the case. Yeah, you've got yeah, a very kind of 3D look about your physique.
Inevitably, it sort of slows down after that sort of,
Yeah.
after that initial kind of 3 to 6 months, it does sort of start to slow down. And you think, oh, what am I doing wrong?
Yeah.
I got massive in the first 3 months. Why am I not getting, why am I not sort of making those sort of gains, in my next sort of 3 months? But yeah, those newbie gains, they're amazing, aren't they?
Oh
And
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the combination of high testosterone levels naturally and then
yeah.
good genetics and yeah, doing the right things. I think I was the same. I basically stumbled across the idea of a high protein diet and lifting heavy early on. I thought, yeah, that's the way to do it. And yeah, you just do the right things, and you don't need to do much when you're that young either. Gains happen pretty easily.
Yeah, it's
Mm.
that novel stimulus, isn't it? Just
Yeah.
yeah, and I didn't really know what I was doing either. I was sort of just following a sort of random program that I found in a magazine, and yeah, I was training 6 days a week, and
Oh wow, quite a lot.
I was probably not even training that hard, and probably
Mm.
wasn't training anywhere near failure. And my training probably it certainly wasn't optimal at that point, and my diet, I wasn't really sort of tracking calories or anything like that. I was just
Hmm.
making sure to eat enough and eat enough protein, and
Yeah.
the gains in the sort of early stages were pretty quick.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes sense. What's your current training like, Dan, in terms of like volume and frequency? What's it like currently?
So I do 5 sessions a week. I'd say my volume over the years has reduced overall. Generally speaking, across sort of most muscle groups, I tend to try and apply more volume to my weaker muscle groups. So
Mm.
over the last sort of couple of years, I've sort of had a dedicated arm day, um, just because I feel like my arms are my sort of weakest area. So I sort of will apply more sort of frequency to them as well. So I'll have like a dedicated arm day where I might do sort of, 8 to 10 sets of biceps, 8 to 10 sets of triceps, for example, on that specific day. But then I might, sprinkle some biceps onto my pull session or my push session or something like that. But
Mm.
um, recently, I say recently, sort of since the end of prep, I've been following like a push pull leg split. Um, Mainly for enjoyment purposes because I wanted to train with a little bit more freedom when I finish prep. And I've really sort of enjoyed this push pull leg split. But
Mm.
over the last I'd say since I started competing, I've sort of followed more of like a traditional sort of like bro split. But
Yeah.
I would it's not just a case of doing sort of chest, legs, back, arms. I sort of will add more volume to certain days. For
Mm.
example, I'll add more sort of side delts to a like an arm session or like a pull session because I feel like I need to bring up that area. So I'll sort of apply a little bit more, I sprinkle a little bit more volume for certain muscle groups onto onto certain sessions.
Mm. Okay, yeah, that's yeah, that makes sense. And yeah, it's interesting what you said about the lower volume as well. Yeah, I find certainly the way I've trained, I spoke to Darren as well, and I think he said the same thing about kind of prioritizing like quality over
Mhm.
quantity. And has that been the same for you, would
Yeah,
you
for
say,
sure.
over the years?
For sure. I think again, only in the last sort of 4 or 5 years have I kind of realized that, in my early stages of, early phases of training, I wasn't training with as much intensity as I could. I wasn't
Mm.
sort of going as close to failure as I could. I was sort of leaving reps in reserve, I wasn't training as hard as I really should have been. And I think because you're not training with the same intensity, you're not training anywhere near as close to failure as you could be, you sort of you're able to do more volume. You're
Yeah.
you know, you're able you can do more sets, you can do more exercises, and it's a
Mm.
lot of it is or was sort of junk volume.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was doing uh, I was doing sort of some sessions I was doing sort of 30, 35 sets
Mm.
per session, and you can't tell me that I was training with the same intensity as
Mhm.
what I do now.
Yeah.
And there's some sessions now where I might only do sort of 10 or 12 sets across the whole
Mm.
session, but you know I'm going to failure. I'm actually absolutely like not leaving anything in reserve, not leaving
Hmm.
anything in the tank.
Yeah.
Um, and your recovery capability when you are training like that with higher intensity is it takes a lot longer to recover from these sessions, and
Mm.
recovery capacity is nowhere near as high. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I think over the years, yeah, sort of quality over quantity in terms
Mm.
of volume. And even with certain muscle groups, I don't train with anywhere near as much volume as what I used to.
Mm.
I used to sort of train legs twice per week. And like I say, some of those sessions I'd be doing sort of 20 to 30 sets per
Right.
session.
Right.
Nowadays, I train legs once per week, and
Yeah.
yeah, I sort of do half the amount of volume
Yeah.
in
Interesting. Would you attribute those kind of early days of lots of sets to legs? Like, would you attribute that to your like you're known for your leg development? Would you say that's a factor, or is it more genetic in origin?
both.
Yeah.
Both. I've always loved training legs, and I
Yeah.
think there's definitely an element, to you've got your stronger muscle groups, the ones that you enjoy training, right?
Yeah.
I think there's definitely an element of that. I've always loved training legs. I've loved the challenge of it. But in my early years, I trained legs twice per week, and
Mm.
like, religiously for years.
Yeah.
And it was the big compound exercises.
Hmm.
It was squats, deadlifts, lunges.
Mm.
It was all the big compound, nasty, heavy
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
I did it twice per week, every week for years, and I never missed a leg day. And
Mm.
it's cliche, but you don't skip legs. And
Yeah. Yeah.
um, I have definitely got, I'd say good genetics for quads especially.
Yeah.
Um, both my parents were sprinters. Both my parents did athletics.
Yeah.
So I've definitely got sort of their genes with,
Mm.
you know, in terms of sort of like good lower body genetics.
Yeah.
But I've also over the last 15 years, I can hand on my heart say I've never missed a leg day.
Right. Right. Okay. You just love. Yeah. You love leg
Love
training.
it. Absolutely love
Mm.
it.
Yeah.
So so a bit of both for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, interesting. Yeah, I mean, obviously you're known for your leg development, but yeah, it's clear to me that you've got a lot of balance to your physique as well and symmetry. Um, what areas do you feel you need to work on, like for next time?
For me, it's always been biceps.
Mhm.
I've always had this thing like and again it's p- like partly genetics and partly insertions and origins insertions
Yeah.
of certain muscle groups. There's you're sort of some people have just got absolutely massive arms, haven't they?
Mm,
And great peak, and all,
yeah.
and I don't. So I really have to work to sort of build any kind of like real mass on my arms.
Right.
Um, Hence the arm day, and hence, increasing volume and frequency for that particular area.
Mm,
Um, Other than that, I feel like I could have some more back thickness and
yeah.
width. I don't think you can ever have lats that are too wide.
No. No.
As a natural bodybuilder, I don't think you can ever have delts that are too round.
Mm,
More capped delts, sort of more of like an X frame sort of
yeah. Yeah.
physique. Yeah. And I've always had like I suppose not a massive waist, but I've been sort of like quite blocky as a bodybuilder.
Right.
I've never sort of had like a really tiny waist, and in that respect, I think you can sort of gain more width in your delts and in your lats. Then
Mm,
that's always going to benefit you in terms of shape and sort of giving that illusion of like a smaller waist for sure.
yeah. No, that makes sense there. Um, yeah, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing when you next go back on stage. When will that be? But out of curiosity, have you got any plans, or is it?
Yeah, next year is the goal.
Is it
Next year,
really? Oh, 26. Yep.
yeah, 2026.
Yeah.
So like I said to you before, I've sort of usually gone with like a 2 year off season, but
Mm,
um, yeah, I had a chat with Darren, and I feel like I'll be ready to go and ready to go again next year.
mm,
I think, yeah, my recovery from last year's prep was very good and
yeah.
pretty quick. Whereas previous years, it's definitely taken longer. It's taken me sort of months to recover rather than weeks, and
Mm,
I've never felt ready to go again, even with like a year off season.
right.
Whereas I already feel like I'm sort of excited at the prospect of competing again next year.
Yeah. Oh, great.
So if all the stars align, then and it all goes well, and I feel like I've made enough improvements, then
Mm,
definitely want to go again next year.
yeah. Oh, that's great. And you've got some more Best Wheels trophies to win as well, I guess. We're collecting
Yeah,
them now, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be great.
How
That'd
many
be
have you got now?
four.
You got four, right? Right. Okay. Yeah. Amazing.
So yeah, I am yeah, really very proud of those.
Yeah.
They're like almost my favorite trophies, to be honest.
Yeah.
My sort of most coveted trophies. So
Yeah, they are great. I won one of my first show actually, and I haven't won one since. Unfortunately, you pipped me to that, but yeah, it's a great trophy. But they haven't changed it since. My
no,
one over there is the same as yours, but the gold one is pretty cool, I must say.
yeah, no, I love it. I love that the BNBF do that. I think
Yeah.
it's um yeah, and when you sort of love training legs as
Mm.
much as I do, it's like, it just again, it's sort of validation, isn't it? That sort
Yeah.
of all those hard leg sessions over the years have paid off.
No, exactly. I was gonna say as well, like you're very experienced in terms of your training. What would you say are some of the biggest mistakes that bodybuilders make during a prep? And it doesn't have to be like dieting; it can be training. Just broadly speaking, what would you say?
Trying to do too much.
Okay.
So too much cardio, um, too many steps, not resting enough, not, rather than thinking, yeah, I need to take a rest day and I need to recover and I need to actually, follow the plan, deviating from that plan and thinking, oh, I need to train today because
Mm,
I need to get leaner. I need to burn more calories. My expenditure needs to be higher. I need to do more. And burning out,
mm,
and not and for that reason, not staying the course,
yeah.
and as a result, the physique actually deteriorates as the season goes on.
Mm,
So sort of peaking too soon, um, and not sort of treating the the season, as as a season, and sort of they sort of put all their eggs in one basket towards that first show,
mm,
and then after that point, their sort of physique starts to deteriorate
Mm,
because they haven't sort of mapped out
mm,
their timeline with that sort of end goal in
yeah.
mind. And that end goal, if you're doing a competitive season, that end goal should be, you should be aiming to sort of qualify for later shows,
Mm,
which might be 8, 10, 12 weeks later.
yeah. Yeah.
And so you have to sort of you have to factor that in when you first start prep is you know if I qualify for this last show in however many weeks time, am I giving myself is that runway um like feasible, and
Mm,
is that going to end with my me bringing my best physique to that last show and
mm,
and not that first show, which if you're doing a qualifier, the goal really is to qualify. It shouldn't
yeah.
really be you going in at 100% and
Mm,
absolutely peaked and absolutely shredded,
mm,
then planning on sort of competing at sort of later shows
yeah.
in 8, 10, 12 weeks time.
Yeah, that's great advice. Yeah, yeah. I'd agree completely with that actually. Um, yeah, no, it's a tough one to get right as well, I think, to get that balance of how
Yeah,
lean
for
to
sure.
get for that first show. That's where obviously having a coach can
Having a coach
really,
is
really help.
yeah, and obviously that experience as well. But um, yeah, not sort of peaking too early, and
Mm,
um, yeah, that would be my sort of biggest thing I think I see with a lot of yeah, a lot of sort of competitors. They
mm,
don't unfortunately end up sort of staying the course, or bringing their best physique or their best sort of package to their sort of the most important shows at the end of
yeah. Yeah, because if you've got like 8 weeks between the first and the last show, that's a long time. It's a long time to be really lean as well. Yeah, it's best to kind of ease into it gently, really. It makes sense.
yeah, for
Mm,
sure.
yeah. Um, let's say you could like hypothetically like teleport back to meet your younger self who's like just getting into weight training and bodybuilding. What advice would you give to them to help, or to young Dan Sutcliffe to help maximize your results?
Good question. The biggest thing for me is to train with. I wish I trained with the same sort of intent and intensity as I sort of do now. The same sort of focus and the same sort of purpose. I was sort of, for years I was really going through the motions, and
Mm,
I enjoy training, but I didn't love training, and I now I love training, and I love uh even when even if I'm not competing, even if I'm in sort of like deep in my off season, like it's the most, might sound a bit sad, it's the most enjoyable part of my day. I absolutely love it, and
mm,
it's that sort of, I think you really have to learn to love the process,
yeah.
and sort of that almost like that delayed gratification, and
Mm,
the sort of training to look good at that specific moment,
mm,
and also to embrace, gaining a little bit of body fat, and not being lean all year round, and
yeah.
not being sort of like, having abs all year round, and I think that was in my early years. I was too fixated on, having a beach body, or,
Yeah.
having abs, or looking good in the summer,
Mm,
having big chest, big arms. It
yeah.
was that classic sort of, when you first get into the gym, that's all you really care about, isn't it? You're
How
not,
we all do it really in the
yeah,
first stages, yeah.
yeah. So more, it would be to sort of, embrace, if you're looking to really sort of do this, take this seriously, embrace a bit of fluff, embrace a little bit of extra body fat, in favor for gaining some more muscle, getting stronger, and just generally just enjoy the process, enjoy the ride.
Mm, yeah, that's great advice. Yeah, I wish I could have told that to my younger self as well, to be fair. Because
Mhm.
yeah, you don't think about delayed gratification when you're
No.
18, 19, but yeah,
You want it
it's
all now, don't you? You want results like, instantaneously.
yeah. I think
Um,
guys they either get too big too soon and then have to cut, and then they go bulk, they cut, they bulk, they cut.
yeah,
Yeah, or they just try and stay lean, and I think neither are conducive to
Yeah,
long-term gains, really. Yeah, no, really, really good advice there. Um, want to do some quick fire questions next, and I'm going to stick with the same ones as we did with Darren. So,
yeah, that's cool.
favorite film,
Step Brothers.
right? With Will Ferrell, is that?
Yeah, Will Ferrell. Yeah, I
Is it
absolutely
Danny
love.
McBride? No, it's not Danny McBride, is it?
Don't know. I can't
The
remember
other
the
guy. I
name.
know the guy there. Yeah, great
Yeah,
film though. Yeah, I love it.
yeah, yeah. Anything with Will Ferrell, to be fair. Step Brothers. Uh, I love Gladiator as well, but I'm a bit of a sucker for a comedy, to be fair. So
Same. Yeah, yeah. No, Will Ferrell's great. Did you watch Elf over Christmas? I take it.
yeah, yeah, love
Yeah,
Elf. Yeah,
classic.
favorite Christmas film.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Favorite dieting food?
Oats.
Yeah, classic.
Yeah, yeah. When my oats get reduced, in a prep, it is a sad day.
Just that day.
Bad
How
day.
many grams of oats? What was like your go-to amount with oats?
Well, it started off about 125 grams at the start of prep, which is a lovely amount.
It is. That's what I'm on now.
Um,
Yeah.
how much I'm eating now, towards the end, it was like 60 grams.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, literally less than half.
Mm,
Feels like nothing, does it? When you're sort of right in the depths of prep and right at the end, you just feel like you're eating nothing.
mm.
Yeah.
60 grams. Yeah, that's what my 8-year-old son, who you briefly met as he interrupted us, that's what he has of a morning with protein, of course.
Good
But
lad. Good
yeah,
lad.
yeah, yeah. No, that's not much, especially when you're that hungry as well. I'm prep.
It never feels enough. It never
No.
feels like it's enough, does it?
But you could have 200 grams and it still wouldn't feel enough at that point.
No, no.
Um, what are your hobbies outside of bodybuilding, then?
I was thinking about this before, and I was thinking I'm quite I'm clearly quite boring because I don't have I think because of as you know, because I'm a PT
Yeah.
and coach as well, it like my life is kind of training, bodybuilding, coaching, and it's quite you know all consuming in that respect. But I love sport. I love football. I go and watch football when I can. My local team, Yeovil Town, you probably won't even have heard
Okay,
of
I've heard of them, but yeah.
them. So yeah, I go and watch football when I can.
Okay.
Yeah, just sort of I suppose quite outdoorsy, doing quite a bit of walking and
Mm,
stuff like that. Anything that involves sort of like outdoor activity, stuff like that. But I
mm.
probably need to broaden my horizon a little bit because it is very sort of like training and bodybuilding focused.
Well, you're still young. You got plenty of time.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that is it. You've given us some really, really good, good pieces of advice there. And yeah, it's been great to get an insight into your 2024 season as well. And yeah, this has been amazing. So yeah, honestly, thanks so much for your time, Dan. I've really, really enjoyed this.
No, thank you very
And
much. Thank you for having me on. It's been
yeah,
great.
no, you're welcome. And yeah, we'll see you guys next time.
Cheers.